Okay.
Let's
Okay.
go ahead and get started. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Copperfield's Books virtual event with Alexandra Roxo in conversation with Saad Simone. My name is Jamie Madsen, and I'm the Marketing and Events Coordinator here at Copperfield's Books, and I'll also be your host for the evening. Copperfield's Books has been committed to literature, education, and creating community together since our founding in 1981. Thanks for joining us in this virtual event community to keep us all feeling connected while separated. As COVID-19 continues to endanger the future of independent bookstores like us, you can show your support for Copperfields and help keep us alive by purchasing a book through our online store. We thank you for your continued support. Just a couple of housekeeping items before I introduce tonight's speakers. The first is we will be using the chat box to provide links to view upcoming Copperfield's events, links to purchase Alexandra's latest title, and will also include my contact details for post-event information. Additionally, the Q&A box will be your go-to tonight with any questions or comments for the speakers. The format will feature around 30 to 45 minutes of in-conversation, and then we'll be open to a live Q&A. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see an icon that says Q&A. Please submit your questions here rather than replying to my post in the chat box, as this will be much more convenient for the Q&A portion. I'm thrilled to announce that all of you attending tonight will get a coupon code for a 10% discount on tonight's title. The code is ROXO, R-O-X-O, but it will be included in the chat box and it will be included in the follow-up email that's sent out in the next couple days. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce tonight's author. Alexandra Roxo is a writer, artist, and co-founder of the online community and ritual program Radical Awakenings. Her writing on the intersection of spirituality, sexuality, and healing has been featured in Girl Boss, Teen Vogue, Mind Body Green, and more. She has been featured in the New York Times, in Playboy, The Guardian, and Nylon Magazine for her raw and sensual approach to healing and wellness. She has been named a modern spiritual leader by Well Plus Good, and she resides in Los Angeles, California. In conversation with her tonight is Saad Simone. Saad is a spiritual guide, a meditation teacher, an international transformational speaker, and a best-selling author who has dedicated his life to helping others live in alignment and achieve their highest potential, something I'm sure we could all use some help with during all of these quarantines. He is pioneering a spiritually sassy, heart-based healing movement rooted in scientifically proven techniques, a method in which joy and authenticity illuminate the path to enlightenment. I'm really thrilled to have both of them with us this evening. And with that, I'm pleased to hand it over to you, Saf.
Thank you, Jamie. Hi, welcome everybody. Alexandra, hi, my love. So good
Hello.
to be here with you, and congratulations on this incredible new book. Oh my God, you gave birth to this amazing, radical set of transformational tools for the world. Yes. How beautiful is that? Oh my God. Yes, beautiful.
Thank you all who are here. Since it's like just a yummy, juicy group, please feel free to write in the chat box. And like if something speaks to you, or if you want to let us know where you are joining in from, we're happy to have you here and just joining us in this yummy, intimate conversation. Since, this is my first book, and I was really like, I was working it ready for that book tour. Like, I was ready with my fancy pen, like the Mont Blanc, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would have been there, like, with bells on to sign books and have a moment. But because of this pandemic, that's all changed. So the book tour is right here. So
This
if
is
you can
it.
imagine in your heart that we're like sitting in Copperfield's books and like a folding chair, and maybe there's like, just like a little cozy vibe. As much as I can't see your faces, we can't see your faces. We are here feeling you and engaging with you. And this is a conversation not just between me and Sa, but with you all here present with us, even though we can't see you. So thank you. Hi, Betty and Marin and Jen. Hi, lovely.
Oh, this is so cute.
Yeah, so we're really happy you're here, and please feel free. to ask questions, to comment if something stands out in the chat box so that we can feel more like we're not just talking into the screen. Because if I was at a book event with you guys, I would see your face and I would see your reactions, and we would be having an energetic dialogue just by being in the same room together. And we're all craving that so deeply right now. We're not getting those types of connections. We're either stuck alone or we're stuck with, family members who we've been seeing all this time. So even though we're not in that physical seeing each other, we're still in an energetic dialogue, just being in this little moment together for the next 45 minutes. So hi, Rhonda in Atlanta, thanks for letting us know and saying where you are.
Amazing.
Yeah, great, awesome. Hi, Sophie, used to be a Moon Club member, thanks for joining.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Babe, so I want to go right into it. I think you being published by such an iconic publisher like sounds true, and having such a radical title to your book. Can you tell us about what does it mean to fuck like a goddess?
I know, it's such a wild title. I was actually like kind of shaking in my boots with this title. Like,
yeah,
my original pitch, and I was like, ee! But so I love putting together something sacred and holy and then something like profane and like kind of messed up. And I love the word fuck. And at the beginning of the book, I talk about where the word fuck came from. And it's actually like, it's a Swedish based word. And the word has so many different meanings. And it's like, we can say like, fuck it, I want to fuck, like get the fuck away from me. We can say like, let's fuck, like what are some other fuck, I don't fuck with that, the word like has so many different
fuck you.
Yeah, it has so many different colloquial meanings,
Yeah.
and it holds power.
Yeah.
Even in this promotional process with my book on Facebook and Instagram, I've learned that the word fuck can be blocked. Like, actually, it's a word it's so weird that a word can be that powerful, right? It's just a bunch of letters put together. So I chose that because also there's something about it that feels like, it just feels like really like fucking like, it's like, and when I think about the phrase of words like making love to your life, making love like a goddess, it didn't really feel like me. Or like having sex with your life feels kind of clinical. But like fucking like a goddess is like when two things become one, they're fucking, right? Like, so it's like fucking like a goddess in the book, and like is like a making love to your life, making love to your pain, making love to your joy, and actually like coming into full union with your life. Because so much of the time we're like fighting things in our life. We're like, oh, I don't want to feel like that. Like, I don't want to admit that. And like, I wish I wasn't that. But in this book, fucking like a goddess is saying, no, I'm all of it. Like, life, come at me. I can handle you. The good, the bad, the ugly. I know how to play with it. I know how to transform it. I know how to transmute it. And I'm not going to go, oh. So when we fuck like a goddess, it's literally imagining you're making love to your fears. You're making love to your
that's
shame.
beautiful.
You're making love to the good stuff too. And so you can also fuck like a god or a light beam or a fairy or whoever you identify with. I love the word goddess because I think the word God is used so much in society. It's on our dollar bill, in God we trust. So I kind of wanted to give that goddess a little bit more play.
So good. Oh my God. Delicious. Thank you. Thank you for that. And when you speak about fuck like a goddess, in the book, and when we are thinking more of like the term more used in terms of like, I want to fuck you kind of energy.
Right. Like, I'm asking people to be a little bit like artsy and metaphorical with the word fuck.
Poetic, right?
Yeah,
And you're
poetic.
Yeah, exactly. Which I love. It's so deep about your work. The whole book is so poetic. Speak to me about body image. I think when we're thinking about sex, and I think from my own personal story, I didn't engage in so much sexual activity until I had healed my own shame around the way I looked, the way I felt in my body. And you address a lot of this in the book. So you
Yeah.
speak to us about body image issues. You're so vulnerable about it on the internet, on your writing, and of course in this beautiful book.
Yeah, well, I think many of us, men, women, non-binary, have fought with our bodies. And I think part of that is because the world that we've grown up with in, most of us in the Western world, who I imagine will be reading my book at this time, but that's my perspective. I grew up in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia area. And I think most of us were taught that our bodies are dirty,
Yeah,
like that we maybe should be ashamed of our sexuality or sexual desires, right? Like your parents are like, don't masturbate in front, like, don't do
yeah,
that, or like
yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
or like, don't go out with those boys, or like there's all this stigma there. And there's also stigma around our weight, right? Like most of us have been at some point kind of fed this kind of ideology from the media that we're only lovable if we look a certain way, right? And so I think for me as a woman growing up in the United States, I like gobbled all that stuff down. And I found that was a big story for me as a woman, these two pieces around my sexuality and my body that I wanted to rewrite. And I wanted to say, actually, my body's fine. It was made like this. It was made to have with sexual desires. It is partially animal and spirit meets animal. But I'm not going to condemn the animal that needs to eat and likes to fuck and poops. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But like, this kind of puritanical society that says you can only poop in a white porcelain toilet behind the closed door. It's like, I mean, it's ridiculous if you break it down, right? And you got to spray a flower spray, pretend it never happened. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing with our sexuality. Only you have to make love with the lights off, the door closed, never tell anyone about it. Don't talk about it. It's like, it's this old puritanical stuff. The same with the body. It's like, make it small, make it tight, make it smell good. So there is this reclaiming of ourselves as whole where we're just like, I'm okay if I stink. I'm okay if I want to have an orgasm. I'm okay if my thighs are jiggly. And it seems really simplistic, but so much money when I looked at statistics for my book, so much money, so much time, so much depression and anxiety is caused from these areas being out of balance and unwell for everybody, men, women, everybody. So much money is put into trying to keep the body looking a certain way, manipulate and change the body. So much money is put into, say, like the porn industry, which means there's such a high demand because people don't have the place to really engage with their sexual desires. So we know that sort of globally we're out of balance when it comes to these aspects of our humanity, our body, our sexuality. So for me, doing healing around that was essential to feeling just okay in the world.
So it's like you don't feel good in your body, and then you are then afraid of intimacy. You're not willing to be intimate with other people because you don't feel good in your body. So then you seek out porn and you become addicted to porn. So then you become desensitized to the potential of actually having intimate connection. You speak to this in the book. Can you let us know a little bit about that too? About like how important it is to like notice where the habits of mind are pulling you in what direction, and how you're losing touch with your ability to fuck like a goddess in every area of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like there's so much stigma around us just claiming our bodies, our sexual desires, maybe even our desires as artistic or creative, right? Like, or desire to express ourselves through the way we look, right? All of this has been conditioned by our circumstances, by our culture, by religion, by society, by our parents. And so, the sexuality is kind of like the base of our human existence, how we arrived here. And it's just a place that holds so much guilt and shame for people, unfortunately, which informs then the rest of our lives. And then it informs the way we interact with an intimate partner, the way we hold back, the way we feel either good and comfortable and safe in our bodies or not. And I think that, we can see across media and news and all kinds of things that are coming up more rising to the surface that we're just globally unwell in this area. And so the healing starts with ourselves. It's like, how do I heal around my own sexuality? How do I actually say, oh, I have this desire Could I allow it to come forth? Actually, who am I erotically? What is my desire? I don't even know because I've never allowed myself the space to consider it. And what a
Mm.
gorgeous journey of
Let
your.
it rip, honey. That was gonna be a later question, but just go, please.
Well, what a gorgeous journey for your human to go, ooh, what is erotic for me? Oh, the way rain falls on my face. Oh, I feel so sexy right now. Or what is erotic to you? Like, sweaty dancing on the dance floor, you get to have that journey of discovery, but that takes a permission, giving yourself permission. And you might have to work through some shame or guilt, maybe around times in your life where things happened that were unconscious sexually, or maybe you went through some sort of abuse or trauma sexually, and the norm is most people have. And so that's a part of it too. As we heal around that, we can sit in therapy, we can do breath work, we can engage with journaling, processing, contemplation, meditation. There's so many ways that we begin to process those things in those spaces in our being, in our mind, in our physiology, in our nervous systems, so that then we can arrive at the present moment and go, oh, cool. Like, what do I want? How do I want to engage with love? How do I want to engage with sex? How do I want to engage with my body? How do I want to engage with self-pleasure? How do I want to engage with spirit? It becomes this whole exploration when we sort of rip off the lens of our conditioning. We take the glasses that we've been given and we go, wait a minute, do I want to wear these glasses, or do I want to clean them a little? Some meditating for years, some reflection, some learning, some study, some grieving, whatever it is, and then say, oh, how do I look at the world now? And this is a universal spiritual teachings, right? It's like, Ram Dass wrote a book called Polishing the Mirror, and it's like that is what we do. We polish the mirror of our soul, of our spirit, of our mind, our internal world, so that we can then go, ooh, like, who am I? Who am I without some of this, these pain or this shame or trauma or guilt or whatever is on the mirror, like the schmutz on the mirror of ourself.
What would you say is like, I mean, there's so many practices in the book. What would you say has been like what is like has been with you in your spiritual toolkit? And let's speak directly about sort of healing sexual shame around our sexuality, around our sexual desires, around deep diving into intimacy in that way. What would you say has been like a foundational tool for you, and for people who are wanting to love sex and to love their sexual organs and to release the guilt and the shame and the blame and the victim mindset around our sexual organs? What's worked for you, and what would you say it's like a foundational tool for anyone that's like starting out?
Well, feeling is number one. Feel
Okay.
your feelings. Have
Yeah.
the courage to feel, and that takes courage. Sometimes the feelings feel awful. So feeling and moving the feelings through dance, through movement, through breath, because the feelings will feel stuck in your body at times. The shame is like a heavy coat. It's like, ugh. So then you're like, no, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to do some breath work. I'm going to do some movement, some dance. Also, for me, key is self-expression, storytelling, writing, communicating, gathering with others, and sharing openly, vulnerably in safe spaces. This to me has been everything. Honestly, everything. Gathering, storytelling, writing, and sharing. So much changes in us when we just acknowledge it and we say it aloud. We just
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh my God, I've been, ashamed of my body, thinking I'm fat since I was 5." Just saying it out loud, then something starts to change. You tell a story about the first time, that you didn't eat what you wanted to eat or whatever. Sharing that story, being witnessed by somebody else. So for me, I have a background of storytelling, writing, sharing, and then I also have added in all of those delicious practices like meditation, breath work, dance, movement, all of that. But yeah, my first and foremost is self-expression. Don't hold it in.
Mm-hmm. So, would you say that? Thank you for that. That's incredible, and I absolutely can relate. And that was what drew me to want to reach out to you and become friends in the first place. So I love that about you. I've always like felt like, oh my God, we're in the same vision, honey. We're literally entering the world from that place of we're fucking the world, from the same place, honey. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so tell me about like, and do you think self-expression? Now I want to sort of like trail into what's happening in the world right now,
Yeah.
and using the book to like, how do we stay inspired during this time?
Mm.
And I wrote what I wrote down as you're talking. I was like, do you think using like self-expression is of course you already know your answer in a way, but I wanted to develop on this more. It's like self-expression is a means of staying inspired. Self-expression is a means of navigating this difficult time that the whole world is experiencing, this collective karma that we're all that's exploded in our view.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think right now storytelling and sharing is key. We're seeing that across different um, cultures, different places in the world, that we have to speak, we have to share what our experiences are, and we have to learn how to listen to others.
Mm-hmm.
And this is huge. This is important. It's part of this slowing down that we're in also. So, but with that comes the consciousness around what you're consuming. What stories are you taking in? What are you listening
Mm.
to? How do you discern what's truth and what feels right for you? So otherwise it can be very overwhelming for the nervous system right now to take in like all these posts about political things and articles and da da da. That's not quite what I'm speaking to. There's a level of expression and there's a level of listening to other people's stories that is a bit more intimate. So that might be in some sort of an online community, that might be with a therapist you can share with, that might be with a few good friends. And so at this time, I think that we need to still value that, even though we might be in different places,
Mm-hmm.
that we need connection. We need intimate connection. We still need to tell stories, and we need to tell the stories that are happening right now and the stories that we're processing, because we're kind of collectively processing things from the past as well,
Mm-hmm.
in different racial relations, in different ways that the United States was formed. There's a lot of processing that's happening. If we just sit with it at home, it can really be kind of destabilizing. So it's like, how do we move it through? How do we connect intentionally with others? And I find that like having a solid group of people in an online community, or just the friends, your real life friends, a way that you can, gather safely together and actually process what's happening, because it's
Mm-hmm.
big what we're going through right now.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
how do we tell the stories of the past while not, you know, remaining the victim to them? Like how do we stay empowered and not victimized? How do we go from being, in the victim mindset to being the victor of our story? And you speak to this in the book too. I would
Yeah.
love to hear
Yeah.
some
Because,
about that, because I
yeah.
think it's so necessary for people who are transformed, who have been oppressed, abused, neglected, in a variety of ways. As women, as queer bodies, black, brown bodies, we've endured a lot of trauma in this lifetime. But how do we choose to then say, okay, and
Yeah. Well, that's a process. And I think first we have to accept and acknowledge and bring awareness to our stories and just go, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe my
yeah,
life experience
yeah,
has been
yeah,
formed around this trauma. That
uh-huh,
takes some time. That takes some time. I mean, I have friends, my parents, I talk about in my book, were victims of early childhood sexual abuse, and my father's was quite violent and quite ongoing and long enduring. So, the process of just bringing awareness to that and going, holy fucking shit, I'm pissed. I am pissed that
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
was treated this way, whether I'm an indigenous person, whether I'm someone who's been through that type of abuse, etc., whatever it is, whether I'm a, black person in the country at this time, like it's okay to give yourself that time of just being angry, in my opinion. Now, the place where it gets difficult is spewing that onto other people. And when I lead a workshop with women, I'm like, learn how to feel your anger, but like don't that doesn't mean you throw a glass at someone's head. That means you learn how to process and feel your rage and experience your rage. And someone brought this to my attention recently, not as toxic rage as when we spew it onto other people and create suffering for them. It's like that is the same kind of system, right? It's the dominator, and then it's non-consensual domination. So we've been non-consensually dominated by maybe, capitalism or society or whatever we want to call it. And then if we do it to someone else, right? So it's not really fair. It's not really, it just continues the same cycle. But then there's something called regenerative rage, where we feel our rage, but we allow it to make us take inspired action in the world. So it doesn't mean that we go around going, fuck you, motherfuckers, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. But instead we're saying, like, fuck, I'm pissed about this. And this is what I'm going to do. And this is where I need you to listen. This is where I need your help. And so there is a difference there, and there's a discernment there, where we can allow ourselves to feel the depth of our pain, our sorrow, our grief, our rage, but not let it then become another toxic cycle. And sometimes then we need to feel that pain for a few years. Maybe it's a few months, maybe it's a day, maybe it's an hour. And that's everybody's own process. And then what you do with it. My book is about that. Take that and create something.
I was just going to
Make
say
art,
that. Yeah.
make a movie, make a community, make a mission, make a purpose that then serves the world. Don't just sit in it, and get mad and blame others. And that's the next step, right? And that's where we take the wounds and we turn them into gold, which is something I talk about in the book a lot, which I feel like collectively we all have the opportunity to do.
I love this. So it's transforming your karma into your dharma, right? So just to reflect on the steps, it's like become aware for everyone listening. Awareness, acknowledgement, feel the anger, validate the fact that things were fucked up, and then go into regenerative rage, which I love the way you put that. That's like such a foundation in tantric Buddhism.
Yeah.
People who experience extreme emotions are great Buddhist tantric practitioners for that reason, because using that to fuel your transformation. And then the next step is create something. And would you say that the accumulation and the regeneration, the upcycling of all of your past pain and trauma has given you the fire to then write this iconic book?
Oh my God.
And live such an inspirational life, because when you walk into places, you are impacting the tapestry of everyone's life. Like you're literally, you walk and embody such a permission slip for all of us.
Thank you.
The way you carry yourself, the way you simply look at us.
Thank you.
Being seen by you, it has such a tremendous healing impact.
Mm-hmm.
So will you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
Too?
I think we're all, I come from a perspective of that I'm not a victim of the trauma and the pain that has happened to me, though I had moments where I was fucking angry, but then I look back and I'm like, if I hadn't have gone through that stuff, would I have created something? Would I have said, I'm going to create this photo show and I don't care what people think if it's crazy. I'm going to make this performance art piece where I'm going to talk about honor killings in the Middle East, and I'm going to talk about female genital mutilation, all this stuff in my early 20s. And like, would I have had that passion if I hadn't have experienced the pain, if I hadn't felt my parents' pain, if I hadn't been treated in certain ways, called a whore and a slut, and been raped and assaulted and neglected and humiliated and all this crap? I don't go into the depths of all that in my book because it might sound like a horror movie, and I don't want to make a horror book, because I'm not in the horror of it anymore, so I don't see it as such, but it's taken me a lot of work. A lot of pain. But once I've sat with it enough, like you said, I've let it be fuel that's helped me to have the guts to make a movie, to write a book, to stand publicly and say, hey, let's talk about our pain. Hey, let's give ourselves permission to love our bodies. Hey, let's honor our desires as sacred, as holy, as beautiful. Let's listen to each other as sisters instead of being in comparison. Let's remember the earth. I'm not the only one preaching and loving this, but we're obviously not there as a civilization because we're still hurting each other. We're still killing people. We're still hurting the earth. There's still, thousands of children that are in sex slavery. So I'm happy to be part of the team that's going, hey, I'm not the pioneer of it, but I'm devoted to the cause of waking up for all of us and healing for all of us, for the earth, for the children, for each one of our bodies, for the people that have been, hurt, neglected, and treated unfairly for thousands of years. I'm what else am I going to do with my life? What else?
That's right. And speak to finding your calling. I think a lot of people are feeling in a time like now are feeling sort of like they don't have a purpose. They don't have, their life is kind of like meaningless. And from two sides, I'm seeing this. Like people have worked the same jobs, have done the same things for many, many, many years, and they found safety and comfort in that. But now they're sort of in this different place. They're like, oh shit, excuse my language, but oh, we can say shit because the title of your book is "Fuck Like I Got It," so we can say shit. So people have what was comfortable for them, their sense of comfort and safety has been lifted and stripped away. People have no jobs. They're not going to work anymore. They don't have even the office sort of interaction that sort of filled just to, fulfill just that little glimpse of connection and intimacy. Alcoholic spirits are 75% higher. The sales of spirits, alcoholic drinks, and also like suicidal. The suicide hotline is 600%.
Jesus Christ.
600% more. More people are calling. 600% more at the suicide hotline. So there's this enormous turmoil, and what comes down to me, and by understanding your work in the book too, it's like it's a feeling like a lack of purpose, right? Because when you're living your dharma, when you're living your purpose, you are then being able to not only be of service to yourself, know how to care and nurture and love yourself, and then you are radically offering this intimate experience to other people as a means of your work.
Yeah.
So we speak to that, like finding your true calling.
Gosh, I'm disturbed by that number.
I know.
Suicide
When I look at these
hotline.
statistics, it's like really like I look at the amount of people who are falling off of and nothing wrong with that. As someone who's struggled with addiction before, but the amount of people who are relapsing because they don't having the meetings in person, the amount of people who are drinking, who would drink once or twice a week, now drinking seven times a week and twice a day, and the amount of people who are contemplating their own contemplating suicide. So will you speak to finding purpose and true calling in that? And then I think we should take questions if you're okay with that.
Yeah. So I think right now we're craving connection, and I think a lot of that is probably a deep craving for connection, human connection. We're not meant to be isolated animals. We're pack animals. We want to be together. We want to lay in little piles, and we want to cook together, and we want to eat together, and we want to sit around a fire together, and we want to sing together. We want to, humans were always like that. And now we've lived in apartments. We live apart. We live alone. We live isolated because we've been fed that by the greater system. And it's a system that doesn't work in alignment with wellness and mental health. So that in itself is just, I'm not like a visionary in the space of like the future of, sustainable living and culture. But to me, it speaks to like, we're going to have to reconsider how we grow our food, how we live, how we connect, how we're more together. Because I know from quarantining alone, it's awful. It's awful to be alone for that much time. I'm a very creative person, so I found ways to get creative. But what I would say is that in this time of having more space and time alone, it's learning how to listen to the internal. For me, I use the word desire, because underneath our trauma and conditioning, we do have a thread of desire that pulls us in a direction. To me, I like to use that word because it's very visceral. It's very embedded in our body. It's like you can feel an aliveness in your body when you come alive, right? Like, oh my God, that movie, I loved it. That poem, that album, and that aliveness is what we look for. in our body, in our mind, in our spirit, in our heart, when that leads us towards our calling. And we see, because people light up, right? Oh my God, I got to tell you about this thing. So I tell people, look for that thread of aliveness and be so determined. Do
Mm.
not give up every day to find that thread of aliveness. I don't care if it what it is. If it's puppies, if it's gardening, if it's baking cakes, it doesn't matter. Find the thread of your aliveness and follow it, and follow it a little bit more, and follow it a little bit more. And make sure that you're not faking that it's your thread of aliveness. And that takes meditation, some practice, some discernment, some good friends around you that are like, I don't think so, girl. But when you find the truth, you know what truth feels like in your body. I bet everyone has felt the thread of truth in their body, the shivers, the the move to tears. That's what we want to look for. And it doesn't even have to be your purpose in terms of a job. This might be your desire to finally pick up the ukulele. This might be your desire to finally like volunteer at an organization in your neighborhood. But it's like having the courage to follow that thread, because the thing is, when we follow that thread, it means expanding a little bit past our comfort zone. And so that is the place that most people get stuck, because if my thread of aliveness means, oh my God, I want to sing. But if it means, oh, I have to face my fear of singing, oh, I have to face that maybe I'm a bad singer, maybe people are going to hate what I'm singing. So but you have to let your aliveness, your living your life fully, be bigger than the fear. And that
Mm.
is your practice. And that is where you expand. And that is where you gift the world your heart before you die, because why not? And it doesn't even have to be publicly. This can be in your family. This can be private. It doesn't matter. But as long as it feels so alive to you, as long as it moves you deeply, then I trust that either your presence after will move the world, or that thing will move the world. And that's what we
Mm.
need. We need all our full aliveness. We need to be turned on and lit up, whether it's politically, artistically, creatively, sensually, whatever it is. Everyone's different, right? We couldn't all be lit up politically, because then who are the artists? Who are the nurturers? Who are the tenders of the garden? Who are the carers for the children? So we all have a certain role in this great big, earth that we're on. And it only comes by listening deeply.
Oof.
My parents weren't artists. They were a teacher and a flight attendant. I wanted to be an actor, a writer, a creator, a poet, a visionary of art and stories. That came from the deep thread of my internal desire. And I know, because no one ever told me that that was possible. In fact, they told me that was not possible for me in Marietta, Georgia, to be an actor, to be a writer, to be, out in the public speaking and da 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 da. But so I just followed that thread from when I was a little girl. And I don't know how. It's just my courageous spirit. Is something I've been gifted. And in that gift that I have, I gift it to others.
Hmm. There's research that actually shows that everyone is a creative genius. So
Oh
I
my
thank you
God,
so
yes.
much for this delicious,
Yes.
reminder, and so beautifully. I'm like, oh my, I'm gagging. You're
Yeah.
so poetic when you're like literally, channeling this beautiful information. So I do have a question here from Rhonda. Let me pull it up. Let's see. Do you see it too?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I read it to you?
Yeah.
How do you advise women to deal in a healthy way with disappointment and pain and hurt when a romantic relationship doesn't work out, especially when it doesn't seem to make sense that it doesn't work out? Don't we love that confusion? Thank you
Rhonda,
for that
we feel
question,
your heart,
Rhonda.
Rhonda. Is Rhonda still here? Let's make sure Rhonda's still here. Yeah, she's great. We feel your heart. We feel your heart. Thank you for asking that question. We've both been there. Um,
Just went through it a few weeks ago.
oh,
Keep going, please.
so for me, the disappointment and the hurt, and actually first letting yourself feel the depths of that, but not getting stuck in a loop there, is important. It's easy to just go, okay, forget it. I'm just gonna move on. I'm gonna get back on the apps. I'm gonna swipe. I'm gonna get busy. I'm gonna be fabulous, but not go, ow, ow. and give yourself the space to cry. If you need to play some sad music and whip out your journal and like go into a moment, but give yourself the moment, because what that does, it actually tenderizes your heart. It like cracks some of the sides of it, and it opens it even bigger. So when the next person comes, you just cleared away some stuff. And that piece is so important, and people skip over that. So looking at that disappointment and the pain, hurt, as actually something that's chipping away some of your walls. And I know it's
Mm.
hard to do that. I mean, I've sat in this 1,000 times. It's awful. But then, so when you let that pain open you, and then instead of closing, you sit in the new level of openness. And you're like, this hurts, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, but with an open heart instead of shut down. That's where the expansion occurs. And then how long can you hold that open? How long can you stay open even though it hurts? Breathe, you journal, you breathe, you stay open, and you feel. And slowly your heart expands past the smallness into more openness. And then the longer you can just stay in that openness and that unmasked, vulnerable, real before you go, nope, I'm okay, I'm fine. What are you talking about? The longer that you stay with, I'm hurting, I'm disappointed, but I'm still willing to love. I'm still willing to believe in love. I'm still willing to feel my own love. I'm still willing to let love flow through me, the love that is here always, that doesn't depend on a human. Then you've just expanded into a new zone. And that's where, you're just going to keep attracting things. You'll feel other people feel that open heart, and it's gorgeous. You can write it in poetry, you can dance it, you can sing it, you can cry it, but letting it stay open instead of going, oh. How
Beautiful.
about you, Saul? What did you do last week?
Oh, honey, it ain't about me right now, honey. For me, it was walking around for it took me about a week of saying, I'm in pain. This is difficult. Taking a shower and being mindful, like constantly, checking the internal temperature. Oh, it feels crunchy. And meditation on a loving kindness meditation, meta, sending love to myself, sending love to the person who I've had the difficulty with,
Yeah.
and constantly shifting my perspective towards this person, and to recognize that it was great for what it was, and
Yeah.
gratitude for that.
Yeah.
And then it was, as you shared with me, because you've been with me throughout this whole process, gratitude that it happened the way you did, and beautiful. It's priming me to love even deeper, and to be even more vulnerable, and to be even more authentic, and to never hold back, to telling a lover, this is how I want to be cared for, this is how I want to be nurtured. So thank you for thank you
Yeah.
for modeling that so often for me to see, and now follow those footsteps into my own journey of dating, and experiencing the difficulties of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rhonda, we hope that answers your question, and just staying in that deep practice with your heart, keeping your heart open, and then just trusting that something else will come, and making it into art is my most fun part. I love to write and to write it out. So
That's what I did too. I created content out of that pain, and honey, it really landed for people, because
yeah,
we all experience rejection, and it's such a beautiful, it's so seductive, right? The energy of rejection too. We can stay, looping in there, and
yeah, like I'm not lovable. I'm gonna just keep getting rejected. All of that. Yeah. Oh my God.
yeah.
And thank you, Jade, for saying not being afraid to follow your heart and show it. Yes, I so agree. I so agree. Um,
This is anyone else have any other questions that I can share with Alexandra?
And it's true. If it wasn't for Zoom, we wouldn't be here. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining from different places besides just like the Bay Area. It is cool. It's cool to have us here. Any other questions before we close for the evening? Can I read like a little page from the book
I was
maybe?
just gonna say, please do that.
To
Yeah.
close it out, to close us out. Let's see. Just.
You have one last question.
Oh, okay.
Wondering who have been your mentors?
Oh, beautiful. They're all listed in the acknowledgement page of my book. They are. I've been mentored by many people, and I talk about like I actually just had one of my mentors on IG Live, who was my first teacher. You know, I'm really come from an artistic background, acting, writing, directing. So I didn't go. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I'm really an artist of life and a deep spiritual practitioner. And I teach from that place. I teach from that self-healing, embodiment, storytelling, movement, speaking, writing, instead of from a particular tradition. And a teacher that I met when I was 19, I had just started practicing yoga, meditation, and I was like super in a spiritual zone. I was like Yogi Alexandra. I was like new persona. And this particular teacher in my school, she was like, you're using your spirituality as a mask. Who are you underneath that? And she kind of ripped it all off of me, and she had me cry in front of the room and tell my story. And it was so healing for me. And then she introduced me to moon rituals and goddess traditions and paganism and earth-based spirituality. She taught me about sacred partnership and sacred sexuality and all this stuff, and also storytelling. And she was an acting teacher. And she was her name's Deborah Kampmeyer, and she's made some great movies. And she was one of my first and like really deepest mentors. But I've had so many over the years. I'm very lucky in that way. Since I've been on this kind of artistic, my path is really artistic, creative, and spiritual and sexual all woven together. Some of my mentors have been my lovers. Or maybe Saw, Saw is a mentor and teacher is a bit different, but I've had a lot of different teachers. But yeah, Deborah's a good one to mention, I think. And there's lots of other teachers who I mentioned in the back of my book, other spiritual teachers. Ram Dass's work impacted me very deeply. Starhawk's work, many others, though they were not mentors, they're just people that, I read their books and their books lit me up. So yeah, I hope that happens for some people. Thank you for that. Great question, Patricia. Okay. Oh my goodness. Let me see.
Don't go there. If you're flipping, give us a number. Anybody? What did you land at?
Well, no, that page, no. Hold on, I want to find something that's a yummy little inspiring takeaway. Talk to them for a second.
Okay.
Well, here, let's answer this one last question.
Last question. Okay.
So, Leah's wondering, what do you do if your desires change? How do you find what lights you up when you feel stuck?
What was the last part of the question?
How do you find what lights you up when you feel stuck?
Oh. Well, your desires will change. And if you allow yourself to change with your desires, that's beautiful in my opinion. But society doesn't always encourage that. Society often encourages us to stick to one identity and to stay there. And I think that our career and our sense of self don't have to be the same. Our career doesn't have to dictate our sense of self or sense of well-being. And so our desires might indicate where we want to go in our life. Like our desires, oh, it's time to have a family. I want to. Oh, I want to write a book. Oh, I want to volunteer. Oh, I want to go march in the street. Like, those are all desires. So they will change, and listening to them and making sure to really discern, again, is this coming from conditioning? Is this coming from wounding? Is this coming from a deep shadow pattern, or is this coming from truth? And that's where the deep practice is. If it was that easy, we'd all be following a desire. We'd all be living the happy life. So then the tricky part is going, oh, wait a minute. my desire to have that family, was that really my truth, or did that come from programming? And so that's where we do the practices, and that's where we really discern. And when we feel stuck, that's a gorgeous place because we're at a crossroads. There's an opportunity waiting for us there. So if you actually sit in that opportunity, you practice, you walk in nature, you meditate, you go into silence, you do all of the different things that are in your personal toolkit to look and to sit in that stuckness until it cracks, until you get that breakthrough, until you move to the other side. And that is the essential bit of transformation. So what people don't, there's like, when you feel stuck, people look at it as like, oh shit, I'm in it, this is bad. No, like every part of nature has a moment where like you're in a transition, you're in a liminal space, you don't know which way to go. So you can just say, okay, fine, I'll just go back the way that I knew from before. Or you can very, very clearly say, okay, I'm sitting in a liminal space, I'm in the void, I don't know what's coming next. And I'm going to listen, I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to do certain practices. I'm going to journal, meditate, reflect, write, go into nature until I have a clear next step. When I have the clear next step, I'm going to follow it. So I would reframe that as not that you're stuck, but you're at a transitional phase. And that's beautiful because every opportunity is possible. Everything is possible there.
I love this.
What would you say to that, Sa?
Oh, I love that. I think feeling stuck is an incredible place to be in, and it's something to be celebrated because you're aware that the old ways no longer work. You're aware that the old ways of thinking, feeling, speaking, acting no longer work, and your external reality is matching what's happening inside. And there's this big conflict now. It's like, oh, honey, please.
Yeah.
So, let's create something new. So thank you for that. That's such a beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to find just maybe like one page. Sorry, I'm like taking a minute here.
No worries, honey.
Okay. This is like 2-3 minutes. Cool?
Let's do it.
Okay. I read this in my group this week, and it was just such a good one to read. It got so dark here. The sun's going to... Okay, you guys, we're going to leave you with this little inspirational message. The reins of control and the to-do lists and goals have been on the forefront of my mind most of this life. The idea of getting somewhere, being something, the notion that I could lie back and let some things come to me while pursuing others with ease, that I could live with an open heart and not also be watching over myself, seemed crazy to me. Yes, I saw evidence of people who seemed to be embodying a deep sense of open-hearted trust despite the odds. But it seemed easier to have a plan, to make sense of life, to know things. To admit to not knowing, to not having a formula or a plan, that seemed dumb and scary. Yet somewhere deep inside, I knew that was the key. That the most glorious moments of love and bliss I have experienced in this life have happened when I let go, when I stopped pushing, when I allowed the fire in me to rise, when I said yes, when I let myself be fucked open by life and the moment, instead of being stuck in my head, thinking about my plans or my looks or my fears. I figured the divine does a great job at making flowers blossom and babies be born. Maybe I should let go of some of my agendas and surrender to the divine too. To ask in the morning, how can I give today? How can I show up? How can I soften to this life? See the mystery in it and revel in its magic instead of being stuck in my thoughts. I know how good it feels to be in the flow, and I am committed to that life of letting go and letting God, Goddess, divine flow, source be at the heart of me, instead of fear and anxiety and worry and lists and boxes. Opening my heart to the moment again and again and again, instead of closing it off and going into my head. The thing I have learned is that there's no formula, no guarantee except committing to the present, to loving with an open heart, to feeling, to breathing, to letting every moment be a sacred moment of awakening, versus letting moments pass as mundane and casual as if I were asleep. I choose awake. That means showing up so deeply, so alive, and so unattached to outcomes that it can be fucking scary. When you fuck like a goddess, the stakes are high. It can be frightening. You risk looking dumb or not knowing what will happen. But you risk for love, for living, for waking up. You do it not only for you, but for the planet. The beings who will meet you with your wide open, right, raw heart and light shining through your eyes. Who will hear your screams and cries protecting the earth, your laughter shuddering through the skies. Who will witness your orgasms like a healing balm on the atmosphere. You will want to run at times from this level of open-hearted living. It's like sitting in the fire some days, burning at the stake. I'm not gonna lie. It can hurt to feel all the feels. I try to run all the time. I tried to run from this book because I knew I had to be open and vulnerable. And I knew it would hurt to open my heart so wide and to get so real. I can't fake it. I can't wrap life up in a bow and say, here's how you do it. But I can remind you that you have everything you need to do this, to love big, to share your voice, to stand in your massive power, to have uncomfortable conversations, to hold the hand of someone you hurt and kiss them, to see injustices and feel them and take a stand, to be a light in the world where the decisions being made are awful at times. We need your voice, your heart, alive and open, raw, bloody, messy, full of joy and sadness and vitality, inspiring others to come out from behind the screens and hug each other and connect and love and be vulnerable and mourn and grieve for what is happening here, for the destruction, for the birth, the death, and everything in between. And from there, we keep opening and evolving into the next level of being on this planet. A level where perhaps we are more divine and less human, more in love and less in fear, making more moments of dancing and less war, doing more planting and less cutting down. It starts here, now, in this moment of you showing up to life, fucking it deeply, letting yourself be fucked open wide and tall and broad and stretched. This is your expansion. The next level of you fucking like a goddess or god or fairy or warrior or light being or whatever you want to fuck and be fucked as. Fucking is divine communion with the present, saying, I'm here. Let's be together. You and me, present moment. I am yours. It's a glorious surrender to lie down and open to the present moment, inviting it in like a lover you don't want to look away from. This is it. Enjoy it. The hair pulling from life, the spankings, and the tears that drip from your eyes in gratitude for the ecstasy at hand. The moment is yours. Make love to it. I dare you.
That was so awesome. Thank you so much, both of you. And what a breath of fresh air that entire conversation was. I just can't wait myself to get into the office and get through that book. So,
oh, good. Well, it's at Copperfield. It's also on Audible. There's all kinds of information on my Instagram at Alexandra Roxo. And please join the conversation. Share what stands out to you. Take a photo. Tag me. Thank you so much, Saw, for doing this with me, for being such
what an honor.
Friend and brother.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So beautiful. Wow. This reading, I'm like, oh, honey.
That was great.
Delicious. Yeah. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you. And for everyone on the event, I will be sending a follow-up email. Just a reminder, the 10% off coupon for our website for Fuck Like a Goddess is ROXO. That will be included in the follow-up email, as well as more information about the authors. So thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. If you're watching the replay, thank you. If you're here live, so lovely to have you. Thank you so much for being here. We felt your hearts and your presence, and I hope something stood out for you from this evening.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.